Hey guys! So, after I uploaded the videos on why I think Shannon, Holly, and Alyssa were all part of the problem on Charmed, I got a surprising amount of requests to do a video on Rose too. And, I hadn't initially planned to do a video on her since she didn't join the show until after Shannon had already left, and those videos focused on exploring why that happened. But since then, I've seen a fair few comments that clearly believe everything Rose has said about Alyssa, and I was like, I don't know. There are definitely some things that make me at least question her story, but I still wasn't sure whether I wanted to make a video on it because that would involve touching on the metoo movement, and that's a subject I wanted to stay far away from. That's not my channel's focus, and I know it's a really sensitive subject for a lot of people, including myself, but after her appearance at MegaCon with Shannon and Holly and that quote about how winners don't let losers rewrite history, I was like, yeah, okay. So, yeah, here is the video on why Rose might be part of the problem. But please remember, these are just my opinions, and I bear no one involved any ill will. And also, I'm gonna do this video in the same style as the other three, so this video is only going to include information that supports this idea. If you'd like to see information that detracts from this, or kind of tells the other side of the story, I would really recommend watching the videos on Shannon, Holly, and Alyssa. But without further ado, let's talk about the reasons why I don't necessarily trust Rose's perception of Alyssa. The beginning. Rose McGowan is an actress that joined Alyssa Milano and Holly Marie Combs on the cast of Charmed in 2001 after Shannon Doherty had left the show due to conflict with her co-star Alyssa Milano, and it is heavily rumored, if not confirmed, that Alyssa went to the higher-ups and said it's her or me, and the network chose Alyssa. So Rose was brought onto the show and introduced as the Charmed One's secret half-sister Paige, though she was subject to much scrutiny at the beginning of her tenure on Charmed, much of that coming from the fan base itself, who for some reason were very angry at Shannon's departure from the show and decided to take it out on the only truly innocent party in the situation. Doesn't make sense, but people eventually got their head on straight, for the most part, and came to accept Paige, and by extension Rose, as part of their beloved Charmed. And the rumors of fighting and tension behind the scenes seem to have left the show with Shannon. Or so it would seem, because according to Armin Shimmerman, who guest starred in the season 4 episode We're Off to See the Wizard, all of the girls, including Rose, were just as problematic as ever and apparently made no attempt to even hide it, because he said,
"What I will put on camera, the worst diva moments I ever had, without a doubt. Two shows. They're neither Buffy nor Star Trek. I hated the ladies on Bewitched. Charmed. And there's a reason why they were cast as witches. Of all the shows I ever worked, that was by far the ugliest."
So yeah, many people have taken this as pretty much confirmation that Alyssa was indeed the problematic one between her and Shannon, given that Shannon was no longer on the show and yet they were still fighting. And you know, that's a fair point. But the thing is, Alyssa wasn't the only common denominator in the situation. Holly was too, and with everything that's been coming out about her lately, she seems to have been a bigger part of the problem than I think anyone realized at the time. But whatever the case, rumors of conflict on the show remained virtually non-existent from then on, and Charmed finished its 8-season run in relative peace, becoming the longest-running female-led show at the time, which, by the way, major kudos, that is awesome. I was always so happy for the show achieving that. But, so yeah. All seemed well for the longest time afterwards, with Holly and Alyssa remaining very close after the show ended, even though she apparently got her best friend fired, but you know, I guess we're ignoring that. And while Rose and Alyssa didn't really hang out and whatnot, there seemed to be no ill will between the two of them. That is, until things took a rather drastic turn, which leads us to the feud. I'm going to try to explain this part as best I can, though I do not follow politics, so I can't say I really understand any of this enough to follow what's actually being said. But I'll do my best. Anyway, In 2020, Rose took to Twitter to express her discontent with the Democratic Party, and Alyssa responded to that, essentially saying, that doesn't really make sense and that's not really fair to say. And for whatever reason, that set Rose off, who came back saying, "You threw a fit in front of the crew yelling, 'They don't pay me enough to do this shit.' Appalling behavior on the daily. I cried every time we got renewed because you made that set toxic AF." She's talking about Charmed, by the way. "Now get off my coattails, you effing fraud." Now, I have a few thoughts on this. First, I really cannot stand it when people decide to interject something that has absolutely nothing to do with the subject that is being discussed in an attempt to win that argument. Whether Alyssa was difficult on the set of Charmed or not has absolutely no bearing on whether her opinion on Rose's statement is valid or not. It's a completely separate issue. And also, we'll dig deeper into this in the next section, but something Rose has become known for is throwing around wild accusations first and thinking about what she's actually saying second. She gets mad and off she goes. So between that and the fact that she had literally never alluded to having had so much as one issue with Alyssa on the set of Charmed in the 14 years that had elapsed between the time the show ended and the time that tweet was made. Even being friendly towards her on Twitter, like when she tagged her in this Charmed quiz, and it was kind of a thing that went between all of them, which was actually really cute and wholesome. I wish we could see more of this, but clearly that's not going to happen. But yeah, point is they seem to have a decent relationship to the point where Rose even came to Alyssa's defense when Alyssa was being insulted, saying, "Whose ass do I have to kick?" Which was pretty nice of Rose. That guy was being what's a word I can say on YouTube? Jerk? Yeah, he was being a jerk. Let's go with that. But yeah, so I don't know what happened between the two of them, but it's clear that whatever happened after the show was over. And, if Rose wants to just say, I don't like her anymore, she's not the person I thought she was, and I don't agree with her stance on a lot of things, then that's fair. I completely support that. You don't have to love people or be friends with them forever. It's okay to change and move on from each other. But what you don't have the right to do is decide you don't like someone now and then go back and completely contradict everything you've been saying for like 20 years for the sake of, I'm going to make this person look as bad as possible. That's not right. And 6 years ago, she gave an interview where she spoke at length about how hard being on Charmed was for her and the stuff she had to deal with. But in this whole article, not once did she mention Alyssa. In fact, she explicitly states that she had no issues with the other women on set. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's always possible that she did indeed have issues with Alyssa on the set of Charmed, but it's so hard to believe their claims that there's no revisionist history happening when there's so much evidence to the contrary. So it seriously makes me wonder if Rose's claims are actually true, or if she was just exercising her habit of saying whatever she thinks is going to discredit the person she disagrees with the most. And, let's say for the sake of argument that what she said is true, and Alyssa did throw a fit on the set of Charmed, saying that they don't pay her enough to do this shit. First, is that really such a bad thing to say? I mean, I'm pretty sure we have all felt that way at one point or another. And second, I would really like to know why she said it. Believe it or not, the context does matter. For example, let's say Alyssa said it because she just wasn't getting her own way and decided that throwing a fit and saying that they don't pay her enough to do this shit was the way to go. That is obviously absolutely unacceptable behavior. But now, on the flip side of that, let's say that Alyssa threw this supposed fit and said that they don't pay her enough to do this shit while they were filming the mermaid episode. Alyssa has a phobia of water, which I refuse to believe the showrunners after 4 years did not know about, and they were just cruel enough to devise an episode that would put her in a situation where she would constantly be afraid. If she had said something like that then I think that would be completely understandable. So yeah, I don't think that one statement out of context is enough to determine that Alyssa is this self-serving diva that made Rose's experience on set a nightmare. And the weirdest thing about it is that alleged fit was and remains to this day Rose's only example of what she describes as, quote, appalling behavior on the daily. You would think that if Alyssa acted out all the time, as Rose claims, that Rose would be able to cite numerous examples of how Alyssa was difficult. But no, It's been 4 years since then, and it's still the one and only example she has. That's a little bit weird, don't you think? Something I can't help but wonder too is Rose clearly had a connection with Shannon before she appeared on the show, or around the time she started appearing on the show. So it could very well be that she had a preconceived notion of what Alyssa would be like through Shannon. So I'm not exactly sure she came in with an unbiased opinion of Alyssa. And if that is true, then I don't think that was fair on Alyssa. If that was the case, she was not judging Alyssa on Alyssa's behavior. She was judging Alyssa based on Shannon's opinion of Alyssa's behavior. And I like I said, I don't think that's fair at all. The bully. Unfortunately, something else Rose has become known for is being something of a bully. The minute she gets angry at someone, she starts publicly name-calling and slinging accusations at them, and she literally seems unable to have a disagreement with someone without somehow dragging politics into it, and or making broad and oftentimes offensive statements, such as when she claimed that there were no gay men standing up for women's rights, or that the women wearing black to the Golden Globes in silent protest against the sexual abuse in Hollywood weren't doing enough, and that they should all just wear Marchesa? I'm going to guess Marchesa. I should have looked that up. Whoops. But that is Georgina Chapman's line, by the way, wife at the time of Harvey Weinstein. And even when her own friends, like Amber Tamblyn, call her out for things like this, Rose ends up doing what she always does when she receives massive backlash. She gives a half-hearted apology. Like, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way, but I'm still right. You attack people for very little to no reason, and then you're surprised when you're ostracized from Hollywood. She even did this to Alyssa, by the way, and I'm not talking about the Twitter feud and stuff. I'm talking about how Rose claimed that Alyssa was jealous of her outing her rapist and acting like Alyssa doesn't have a place in the metoo movement when Alyssa too has been a victim of sexual assault. Rose doesn't seem to understand that she is part of the very problem she claims she is trying to fight. Your whole goal is apparently to motivate women to come forward and take a stand against sexual abuse, especially that in Hollywood. But if they don't do it your way, or you think they don't belong, you come after them and encourage your followers to do the same. It's not the oppression Olympics, Rose. Nobody wins here. You claim you want to fix a broken system. Well, that is not the way to do it. Your approach is dividing people much more than it is uniting them. And then you turn around and refer to what you don't agree with as cancer or propaganda, problematic, and like, I guess we're just using all the buzzwords, huh? My point is, Rose makes trouble everywhere she goes, says people hate her and that she's got a lot of enemies, and somehow never realizes that her own attitude seems to have always been, and probably will always be, the biggest enemy she has. The Revisionist. So, why do I bring this all up? To illustrate the kind of person Rose seems to have become, and demonstrate why her perception of Alyssa might not be the most accurate. I have said in several videos now that I do not understand why everyone believes something just because someone said it. It is possible for people to lie and twist events, and you have to compare to what this person is saying now against what else you know about the situation and what they have said in the past. And the fact of the matter is that Rose hasn't really said anything about not getting along with Alyssa before politics got involved. And I'm not saying that she didn't have issues with Alyssa. She very likely did. I'm just saying that even if that were true, that does not mean that she can say that she knows what went on between Shannon, Alyssa, and Holly. I do not understand how someone who has never spent so much as a day on the set with the three of them together thinks of herself as an absolute authority on the matter and can speak for the people who were there. But that's where we're at, because Rose went on stage with Holly and Shannon at MegaCon, and together they pretty much said that Alyssa was not a problem, she was the problem, and they protected it from us as long as they could, but they just couldn't anymore. Okay, even if we believe that, which I don't, I think we've established that Rose is easily the most volatile of the four actresses and does not really stop to think about how what she says will be perceived before she says it. So I don't think protecting the fan base is exactly her primary focus. But again, even if we suspend reality and believe that, her joining Holly and Shannon on that stage felt much less like protecting herself and much more about attacking Alyssa. I mean, just listen to her parting shot.
A wonderful, wonderful saying. Winners do not let losers rewrite history.
Can you believe that this woman is in her 50s? I mean, really. First of all, calling Alyssa a loser? Real mature. That's a great attitude to have. And second, we're right back to Rose's apparent belief that things are all about winning, that there is something to be won here. I mean, what is this? Some sort of game to you? What did you apparently win? What did Alyssa apparently lose? The respect of the fan base? As if. Because despite what you're all claiming about her and denying that there's any revisionist history going on, the fact of the matter is that no matter how nasty any of you have been toward Alyssa or what accusations you've made, she has never once been publicly mean towards you, never once publicly called you names, and never once has done any of what you three apparently think is okay to do to her. And so she comes out looking like a class act and you all end up looking like a mess. Though I will say that Shannon is the one out of the three being the most adult and diplomatic in this situation. She is just defending herself and telling her story. Holly and Rose, not so much. And she also responded to the statement Holly made after the MegaCon appearance saying, "I love your big black heart and respect you, Holly Marie Combs. I love what the show has meant to people worldwide. Sometimes a mess has to be made for things to be cleaned up. This for me is way bigger than a TV show. It goes to years of continuous behind-the-scenes character assassination and targeted reputation smearing because of narcissistic pathological jealousy." There's all those buzzwords again. "I wish none of it had to be this way. I remain proud of everyone involved for the magic we wove and the magic we created worldwide. Truth is uncomfortable, but magic never dies." So it's a little hard for me to take this response seriously, considering it seems to be full of Rose's usual antics. I mean, character assassination, targeted reputation smearing, narcissistic pathological jealousy. It's like, oh my god, how many buzzwords can you use in one statement? And notice, once again, not one more example of how Alyssa was apparently problematic. It's just more fluff. And, sometimes a mess has to be made in order to clean it up. It's like, well, you guys are the ones who made the mess. Alyssa definitely didn't start this. And so, yeah, you guys should be the ones to clean it up. But the problem is that's not what you guys are doing. You're just throwing more mud and making more of a mess, which is all you ever seem to do. I think Grams was so right to sidestep this in its entirety and be like, nope, I'm not getting in that. Peace. Yeah, so, that's pretty much my thoughts on why I don't necessarily trust Rose's perception of Alyssa. And like I said before, I don't bear her any ill will. I know that she has been through a lot. And to be honest, we've only heard the stuff she's willing to talk about publicly. God only knows what she's been through privately. And I think that might be a big part of the reason why it can be hard to reconcile this Rose.
The first year Paige, I wanted her to be more colorful and goofy and young, and again, as she's gotten older, as I've gotten older, I wanted her to become a little bit more refined and still colorful, but not every color in the spectrum, which I really think suited her for the first couple of years.
With this Rose,
I would direct you, Shannon, and the other one.
What's the other one? The other one? Alyssa? Well, no, we gotta let Shannon direct because that's her forte right now.
But that's my forte.
It is. Well, you're gonna have to do two then.
But yeah, again, I bear no one any ill will, and I actually hear that, like Shannon, Rose is a total sweetheart to her fans and is one of those rare gems that actually takes the time to talk with them instead of just being like, oh yeah, here's your autograph, now go away. And I think that's really amazing. Big respect for that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are.